This is August 11th. This is my second blog. So I just want to talk about hype because, well, I have a lot of games. We have a lot of games at Game Tree, sure. Um, like 350, depending upon the day. We're always selling some, getting some in. But yeah, hype. Hype is so big right now in the industry, and it's there, obviously to sell games, but it's also there to confuse people because if people knew what they were buying, they obviously probably wouldn't buy a game that they don't like. So there's lots of like framing and bits, and there's so much that goes into selling a game. I'm just going to talk about some of the games in the background here. Teach you to buy it. One of the first things that people do is they say that this game is like that game. And so like first off, we have Clank. Clank was a huge success. It doesn't really have any player interaction. It has deck building, which has been highly successful. Um, so okay, if you like Clank, you know, you'll like Clank Catacombs, right? Just by proxy. Hey, you like deck building? Well, then you'll also like Tyrants of the Underdark, right? So that's one of the first things that goes into hype of new games, and I'm talking about Kickstarter or even just general releases, right? A lot of times people say, well, this game is like that game, and immediately this connection goes onto your brain like, I like this, therefore I will like that. And often we don't really even jump into the nitty gritty to see if that's a true statement. Like, well, I do like Clank, but do I really want more randomness in Clank? Do I really want more downtime in Clank? No. And that's exactly what Clank Catacombs has. Um, I would just rather play any of the original Clanks, the pirate one or the underwater one. I like that one a lot. I like the spiderweb and gold one a lot. I don't like the Egyptian themed one very much. So that's the first thing is they create this, likeness. For example, Endeavor, they just had I think it was Game Found, where they remade the game and it's more exploration, but it's this whole underwater saving the oceans theme. And well, the original theme is just straight, taking over the the world with discs. And they took that mechanic and they changed it. And I really like Endeavor because it's pretty fast-paced game for what it is, and it is a little bit of an engine builder. And I really looked at that Kickstarter Game Found, whatever it was, and I just like, this is fine. This just, do I really need this? And I know lots of people have talked about this before, but hopefully I'll bring some new ideas into this conversation. Do I really need another endeavor that does the same thing with discs, but in a completely different way for a completely different theme? Right. One thing that I do like about Endeavor and a few other games, Archipelago, for example, is it doesn't really shy away from history. History is, however it was, and that's it. You know, you don't actually take on a certain empire or European power in Endeavor. You just, choose your color and away you go, because that's what was going on at the time. It's not arguing good, bad, or indifferent. Similar. So like Endeavor and Clank right there, I have the Clank Catacombs, but I don't play it very much. And I have Endeavor gets played so often, and it's fine. So as a person that owns a game shop, I don't need both. Probably I don't need Clank Catacombs either. I'm trying to actually shrink the games in the shop right now. That being said, there's also so much going into games now that are not games, right? So much of the bits and the pieces and the first player marker. Oh gosh, the first player marker, make it as big and as ridiculous as possible. It's the best piece of the game that has no purpose. Now, in contrary, you have games like Axis and Allies that they put all their money into those little, aircraft carriers, destroyers, battleships. All the money was in the pieces that you used. There is a new game that just came out right now, Everdale Seaside or Portside or something, and someone posted like, "Oh, these are such amazing pieces," and all they are is resources, right? No, well, that's nice, and you're going to touch them a lot, and it's better than cardboard chits. but if that increases the price of the game, just like the beauty of it, now let's go ahead and compare that to Kemet. So Kemet, you are going to be constantly similar to XNLs, moving these pieces around. And that's a real big thing. And in Kemet, you're going to be moving these pieces around all the time. While in games like Everdale, you just put those pieces and you put them right in front of you, and that's it. And then you trade them in later. So the ooey awy of that, like the pearls, for example, or the meeples that you could put other meeples on in the first Everdale, you know, I don't care about that. But the card art, that to me, that is good looking card art. You're going to be looking at those cards, holding those cards in your hand for a long time, and choosing which one you put down. To me, that's awesome, right? I just don't like when Kickstarter or GameFound or wherever, they say, oh, you're going to get all these amazing pieces, and you will rarely touch them or use them. Or sometimes in certain games, I'm looking at you, Vanguard, oh, you might not even ever have these pieces come out in your game. Well, then why the heck have them? In comparison, Dark Tower does this amazing thing in the game where it says, cool, here's all the chits for the bad guys. You can upgrade to minis, right? It's not part of the game, right? It's an expansion, right? And I love that they give you the option, right? And I do have the expansion, and we do play it, and it does make the game really pop. I've actually never played with the chits, but I just do not like games where you buy stuff that you never use, or it's just the first player marker. Western Legend, right? You get these card holders right here. I mean, that's nice. It's cool. It holds the cards, but like, is that a needed thing for this giant box down here? Not really. In comparison to XSNLs, where you're going to be touching and moving, and all those pieces are the game. Similar to TI, right? Similar to Eclipse, wherever that is. Boom, right over there. You're going to use all those pieces, and I love that they put lots. Your money is in the plastic, and I can always get behind that, right? That's just another thing about the hype, like, ooh, the coins, ooh, this, that you're never going to use. You're rarely going to touch them, and it just becomes something you're throwing money at that just feels like it's going to be glamour, feels like it's going to be super amazing, but it's not, right? And this is going to move on to another hype item, just re-deluxified versions of games. And I'm going to talk about one of my darlings here. I'm going to talk about Star Realms. Star Realms, past year or so, they published the base game with just shinier foily cards. That was it. It was like a collector's version or something. And just like, why does anybody need this? Oh, it's we're only gonna have it for a limited time. This is super nice, super special, blah blah blah. And tons of people bought it. But like, it's not any different than the regular game you can buy for, $13, $10, $15 over on Amazon. Right? There's no different. And this is just continuing, like with GameFound and Kickstarter becoming so predominant in how people buy games. It's just exploding. And another example of this that kind of bridges this kind of important but kind of not is my father's work. I don't think that's pictured behind me. Now my father's work, again, you're going to have these beautiful little pieces, the little glass vials and the little gears and stuff, but again, those are just like resources. How often do you take those resources? Not that much in reality to the time of the game. It's very short, right? So would my father's work have gotten so much money on Kickstarter with it being just a regular looking chit or resource? Probably not. And what's super funny is when you look at, I'm going to go ahead and spin, when you look at other games, for example, like Great Western Trail, I mean, what a boring kind of game, right? It's just cows. You're moving along a track. You put these ugly, not beautiful, very plain pedestrian little buildings down, and everything is pretty plain and pedestrian in the game. But the gameplay is exquisite. right? It's a great game, right? Sure, they did a new publishing and changed the cover art and ironed out some rules and stuff, and that's fine, right? And I would much rather have a plain game that's awesome than a blinged out game that there's not that much game to it, or you barely even touch the pieces, right? And this kind of is the same thing like with Catan Starfares. Like you're shaking that ship all the time. You know, when you put the lasers and the boosters on, like that is really, really important to that game. And that is, you know, your second kind of die, you know, when you shake it and that's your movement. And I'm completely okay with paying like the $100 or whatever it is for Catan Starfarers because it's in the game, right? It's there. Like I wish the map could be changed a little bit more, but I mean, those giant plastic spaceships when they come up, you're like, wow, and then you use them all the time. That's even better, right? So like compare this to a game like Civilization, right? Where, oh my gosh, I love Civ games. We're going to compare two Civ games right now, right? Probably three, but you get almost nothing for your money, right? The cards are, I think, are pretty horrible. Like the art is just super generic, right? The map tiles I find are small, and there's few, few pieces that you actually ever move on the board, right? Why couldn't your settlement be like a little cool plastic piece like in Catan or something, or wood? I'm fine with the wood, right? But it still costs like, you know, $4. And then the combat is just jank. It's horrible. And you call this Civilization? And then someone goes and steals the only thing that's good about the game, the little card system, and puts it into other games like Arc Nova and does it way better. And I don't even like Arc Nova very much. So again, if this game was on Kickstarter, maybe it would have had more bling, but the game's horrible. And I even have the expansion. I've never even played with the expansion that actually has a little military guy, one or two or whatever it is, that moves around the board, right? But you look at games like Lords of Waterdeep, plain, pedestrian, beige, great game, right? And I always feel that when a game has too many pieces, when it has too much bling, it's trying to have you not look too deeply at the gameplay, right? And that's what really creates the hype. And then you have other games that they have this great pairing of the blinged out and the actual mechanics of the game. And one of these examples is Planet Unknown, right? Where you have that great spinning Lazy Susan things, all the pieces. You know, that's awesome. That fits so well, you know, with the game. Andromeda's Edge. So Andromeda's Edge has all these cool things in it, all these little nicks and knacks, but everyone that's backing that game, and I just pulled up, is 1,600,000, right? Everyone is expecting that you're going to be using all those pieces because in the previous, you know, Dwellers of Eldervale, you used all the pieces. You're going to use all the cool stuff. You know, and that's what makes people excited about Andromeda's Edge, right? I'm actually, you know, less excited because I didn't really like Dwellers because again, there was so much hype, right, about that game. But I think Andromeda's Edge is going to be that really nice, you know, meeting in the middle, as well as Last Light, where the planets are the little color things and the lights and everything. It's going to be great because it's with the game, like it's on the game board, right? And I really think that, especially as a person that has a lot of games and plays games quite often, that for me, if a game doesn't do anything unique, I'm just not interested. Right now, sure you can say like, oh, what's the difference between like Twilight and Star Trek and Eclipse? Well, there's a lot of differences. Sure, they're all space, but they do space differently. Combat's a lot different, even though it is all rolling dice. But it's just very different games. So the hype that's going around right now is just, I feel that it's less. After the pandemic and everything, it really decreased. But I'm just sick of it. Like I'm just done. Like, you know, games come out with just so many miniatures. For example, like Aeon Tapestry Odyssey. Like I backed it. I just looked at the sides of that game. I looked at everything, and I just insta sold. I was like, I'm not getting into this. This is just too much, right? Is it a good game? I don't know, right? Another one, Castles of Burgundy Special Edition, right? I have the basic Castles of Burgundy. It raised 5.7 million pounds, right? And lots of pieces, and they redid the board. The boards look more vibrant. I don't care, right? It doesn't really change the game. It makes it prettier, and I guess that's nice, right? But if you have the original castles, right, would you just get the basic version? No, you're gonna get like the all in, the coins and the everything, right? It's just I feel that there's so much that people could be looking at instead of just the pretty pieces. And I feel that one of the companies that is kind of like the most heinous that does this is a company that I like, and that's Awakened Realms. I have almost like everything Nemesis, but I haven't opened up a Nemesis lockdown or even read the rules because the rules are usually horrible. I feel that if people would just focus more on gameplay and less on the bips and the bobs and the plastic, then the game is going to actually sell well. And here's the comparison about Civilization. So let's talk about two other Civilization type games. Civilization Light, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for what I'm about to say. So let's talk about one of my darlings, Clash of Cultures, and then let's talk about Tapestry. Now, they're all Civilization-esque games. In Tapestry, you have those beautiful little city buildings, that you fight for, and it goes on your board, and it just looks nice. It just looks nice. It doesn't do anything. What's the real difference between like that and terraforming Mars and the milestones and the objectives? Same thing. You're going for it, and one person can get it. I feel like, and that game is just boring to me because one, it doesn't feel like Civilization. I don't feel like I'm growing or attacking or able to affect other people's um, games because the game is, for the most part, it's an engine builder. You want to get those techs and then activate them. That's what you want. Um, and then you look at Clash of Cultures, where again, beautiful little sculpts. Sure, some of the spears are a little dangly. The buildings, I just love them. Right. So the plastic is there and you're playing with it. And that's what I want to pay for. I want to pay for something that I'm actually going to play with, not just I take it, I put it on my board, I never touch it again. Right. And that to me is part of the hype that comes up with a lot of the bigger games. For example, if you look at Rising Sun, or I want to say Rampage, Ragnarok, no, Eric Lang games, Blood Rage. When you look at Blood Rage, you have those beautiful miniatures, and they come out for a little bit. And I feel like in Blood Rage and Rising Sun, those minis are just a diversion. That's it. Like, they're beautiful, they're amazing. They come out, maybe they do something, and then they leave the table, right? And definitely the first few times you're just like, I want that guy. Oh my God. And you're not even thinking through, like, is this guy actually worth everything I'm gonna pay to get it? And I feel like that is the crux of so much of the hype on Kickstarter and GameFound. Is this really worth the money I'm paying for it? Because it's so easy to be bedazzled by these beautiful miniatures. It's easy. And now let's do a little comparison. We're going to go back to Civilization games and talk about Mary Nostrum. Now, Mary Nostrum, I like Mary Nostrum. I backed it. I like a lot of Academy games. I wish they would have done Thief a little better with the rules and the oversight. Anyway, but the resource chips are poker chips. This to me is awesome, right? It's not super blinged out, but it is very, very nice thing. It has a nice heft, and you use those all the time. Again, that's a usable piece. Right. Same thing with the little ships and the buildings. Those are all usable pieces. So especially in civilization games or fighting games, you are going to use those pieces a lot. While like in Endeavor and Euro games, and I'm just going to call Tapestry Euro game, you don't need really those kinds of blings. And that brings us to Mind Clash. Oh, Robert's going to hate me now. He's like, oh, Stuart. So Mind Clash games, oh my Jehoshaphat's, are so beautiful. right? The miniatures, the art, everything they do is beautiful. I'm not a super fan of Mind Clash games. I played the Cerebral game. I thought it was fine. I thought it was overly complicated, but man, it was beautiful. I did back Voidfall because, I love space games. And it's a Euro game. Instead of having all these ships on one space, you have the ship and you just put a cube to show that you have more of that one chip. I love that. I love that they're not just trying to crowd you with just tons and tons of miniatures. And I'm super excited. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll deliver to Thailand this month and I'll get to see it and maybe do a review if I get to play it, 3 or 4 times. I don't like to do reviews on games unless I play them a lot. Definitely some games, when you use the miniatures, when you use the blinged out things, is great. But when you don't, when you just like vomit plastic at me, here I'm looking at you, Western Legend, I can only play with one guy at a time. Is that really needed? I mean, they need to make money. Great, I understand. But it's a trap, and I fell for it. I'm sure you've fallen for it as well. But when you look at games, do I have something like it? And is it going to replace that? Is it going to stand next to it? I'm looking at you, Clanks. I'm looking at you, Eclipse, and TI and Star Trek. Like, is it a different taste of a similar thing? Is it ice cream, but this is mint instead of chocolate chip? And that's the thing that has really just pushed me away from GameFound and Kickstarter, is just everything just seems so similar, right? It's just another deck builder with this. It's just another Euro game with animals or plants and polynomials. And it's so hard now to see what's good and what's not, because everything is spent on the things that you would believe would make the game better. And I really think that the first thing they do is like, we need miniatures and we need beautiful art, and gameplay is like fourth, right? That's it. And so people like, oh, this looks so cool. Oh, I can't wait to play this. And Vanguard, I haven't even played my copy because I have second wave shipping. Like, I'm not even gonna play the game. Like, I'm already over it. Like, I've read the reviews, I've seen the reviews, and it's like, yeah, it's not as good as it looks. Like, and I'm gonna now talk about another game that's similar to Vanguard but completely different. That's Solar 175. The reviews have not been kind to Solar 175. I'm gonna go ahead and just look at this real quick. All right, so here's Solar 175, and it has a 7.8. And that is a very high rating, right? So this game talks about, an epic Euro style legacy expansion. Right? I found this game to be dull as donuts, just absolutely passive. The story meant anything. Like, we even stopped looking and reading because it didn't matter. You're just going to get more of something or another one of this or get some more cards out. Again, with 3 players, it was just like, yep, throw the thing in here. Up, we see that Alex is going for this, or up, we see Jim's going for that. We want to try and ride that out. The game was just, I don't want to play anymore. I played at least 7 hours, and it's just a beautiful game. Absolutely beautiful. Let's look at some pictures together, right? Just, you get some cool ships. You can buy a second ship. It looks awesome. I liked that they just use these little custom, this is like steel or titanium or whatever. I like that these are very simple, but they're also unique. I like that. And I like the discs are just influenced, that they didn't go crazy all out. It just feels like they took a very large space game and they cut it up into pieces and they called it Legacy. That's it. When you sell this and you say those words to people, they're going to think very different things. There's voting in this game. They have this nice dual layer player board is nice. It looks beautiful, and it is beautiful. Even about the player mat, which you really, if you're going to play this game, you should really have the player mat. The game is just dull. And this is so hard to screen or figure out before you buy. Like, is this game going to be exciting? Is it going to be fun? Am I going to play it enough, whatever that is for you? So maybe 7 hours is enough, but we didn't even finish the campaign. I don't know if we will finish the campaign. The game shop's closed right now for remodeling. So, I want to hear from you guys, what you think is a way to kind of figure out if a game's for you. If, for example, do you only buy games with plain components, or do you do the $1 pledge or whatever? But I really want to love Solar, and I kind of want to finish it. It's a very large box. I like that it all kind of fits in one box. I just feel that it's really difficult to figure out if a game is good or not. And one thing, funny enough, that my wife told me is don't back anything, right? If it's good, it'll be good in a year. It'll be good in 6 months. And I know some people are like, oh, but like the Kickstarter exclusives and all this blather blather. True, right? Maybe you're gonna miss on that. But like where I live in Thailand, people dump Kickstarter games on the market for other people to sell. So if I want a game and I'm willing to pay a little extra when it comes out, when I can read the reviews and see what other people have to say, then okay, sure, fine. Then I can know, if a game is one game, for example, that I love, I really love it, and I like enjoying this game is History of the World right down here, and also Concordia. I like both these games, right? And History of the World looks super boring, right? It's an older game, it's like 94 or something, right? But every time I've played that game, it is exciting. It's on your feet. It's like, no, everyone's you attack him, da 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 da. And I would love if the game actually had a little more bling, right? If the little forts were a little nicer. If the and so some games that are so plain, I would like a little more, because you touch those things, you move those things, and those things have meaning. While in Concordia, everything is a meeple and all this, and it's like, I don't know if I need all that. But it's such an intricate balance that what they do, on the other side of the aisle to get us to buy, and it really just feels like it's all doodads. It's just all plastic. And, right now when I look at a game, I'm just, does the game look fun? That's like my first question now. I played Seventh Continent with Robert. We had a blast, and that's why I backed Seventh Continent. If I didn't play that game with Robert, I would have never backed that game because I didn't know it was fun. Like Cyclades, I played Cyclades a few times. I really enjoyed it, so I backed the new version. Arcs. Is that gonna be fun? I don't know. But like Dead Reckoning, that game is out, and people have they've said what the game is, and the game seems very fun. I haven't played it yet, but I did back it. That's the biggest thing is how do you kind of answer that question for yourself, or are you that analytical, when you back games, is this fun? What part looks fun? And how do you kind of dispense with all the hype, the clickbait that gets, the ooh, plastic shiny? How do you move past that? And so what do you guys do? Let me know. Thank you so much. This is my second vlog. Hopefully we'll do a little more of these. Tell me what you guys think. I will see you next time. Ciao, ciao. Bye, bye.